content of this channel is for mature audiences. Parental discretion is advised. You're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel. Please make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell notification button. And please, feel free to share the video. Thank you. What's good, everybody? I am the G with a PhD, and you're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel. This is the place where black men can express themselves freely, straight up, no chaser. Before I get things started, like I always do about this time, I'd like to give a shout out to all of the members of the Green Gorilla channel. I'd like to give a shout out to Force Window, Michael Cavanis, Urban Nomad, Raphael Brown, Barnolas, Kyle J. Sura, I'm Just Jules, The Book of Ronin, Av Media 83, New Jersey Progressive Indie, Damon Harris, Brian McMurray, Ethan Hines, Mr. Lou Meth, TD Hip Hop Media, Drew Main, Shop Talk Live, Jones Boy, Ryan Jackson, The Face, Mr. Heat, David the Man, Afro Analyst, NEU, Ronan Martin, Black Quizit ADOS, Conscious Uncoupling, Isa Abdul Sahir, Sir Anthony, Deshaun Nolly, ML Law, Charles Rogers, Black Dog, Brother Love, Infamous Chillin', Universal 178, Black's Word 404, Rashid Barnes, Aaron Smith, DH, C Truth the Revelator, Gold Professor, The Nameless Protagonist, Black Pill Ned Stark, Arthur Unknown, Odd Collard, Dr. Tiasan Johnson, Brian Williams, Kalan Jakala, Sherrod Martin, Ricky Dawson, Cedric Bowman, True 7360, BK Born Shaheed, James Washington, Hostile Adept, Seventh Coast Dojo, WPR1, Roguish the Buildmonger, I Care, Lady Miss Thing Green, BGS Ibmore, and Marvin Battle Jr. Thank you all so much for being members of the Green Gorilla channel. And if you're inquiring on how to become a member of the Green Gorilla channel, well, here's how. What's good, everybody? I'm the G with a PhD, and you're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel, the place where black men can express themselves freely, straight up, no chaser. Today, I want to introduce you to my new membership program that consists of 5 levels where you can invest in the Green Gorilla channel on a monthly basis and receive level-specific perks. Memberships are special because they improve the quality of the content of the channel and will help me to be able to keep the channel going. Now, to participate in the Green Gorilla channel membership program, all you have to do is hit the join button, which is located right next to the subscribe button on my channel page. Now, for all of my subscribers who decide not to participate in my membership program, nothing will change. The content will keep coming the way it always has. Thanks for watching, and be careful out here, people. Bless. Okay, so I'm back. I'm the G with a PhD. You're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel. I would like to encourage you to become a member of the Green Gorilla channel if you like the programming that you get here. But having said all that, today what I want to talk about is the ways in which, or the instances in which strong black women defang their sons. And you know, I did a video maybe about 5 months ago when I nearly started the channel, and the video was titled something like black women romanticize the boyhood of their sons. And it's like, at some point, you gotta let that boy grow up. You have to let him grow into what he's becoming. You are an origin point for that boy, but you're not the ending point for that boy. Because that boy, as a matter of fact, is going to grow, provided that he lives long enough to grow into. But he is basically tending towards becoming a man. And he can't fully become a man if his mother is overprotective, if his mother babies him, if his mother continues to protect him like she would protect a toddler, as she would protect an infant. There's stages and there's phases. There's a point where if you're a strong black woman, you have to let that boy become a strong black man. But you know, I thought about this, and I didn't think long about it, but I did think about it, and I thought, at every household, or in every household in black America, there comes a time when the parents have to give their son the talk. You know what the talk is. It's the conversation that a mother, if she's a single mother, or a family, or if it's a single father, it's the dad, or whatever the case may be, they gotta tell their son what the world is like for black men, and that they can't remain a boy forever, and so at some point they're going to be perceived as a threat, and that the society will throw everything it can at them to fail. And people go about the talk in different kinds of ways. Various ways the talk is administered. Various ways the talk is given. But I guarantee you, and it's unfortunate, that most often the talk is one in which the parents warn the boy on how to become passive, on how to not make sudden moves, on how to not actually be perceived as a threat, instead of encouraging him to actually become a threat. You got what I'm saying? You don't get what I'm saying. Men should be a threat. Now we can talk about social justice warriors and how we all need to get along. But the reality is, a gorilla that's not a threat is not ever going to become a silverback. You hear me? Never ever. A cub, a lion cub, will never become the king of the jungle if he's defanged. We tell these boys, we tell them, we don't want you to go out there and get shot. We want you to not make any sudden moves because we love you and we want to see you survive. And we don't want you to ever get into any trouble out there, boy. What we end up doing is we tell him to not be a threat, to make sure he's never perceived as a threat. And in essence, he never ever becomes a threat. Now, I'm not asking for parents to tell their boys to become wanton and reckless and miscellaneous killers, but you want them to be mindful of the fact that it is their duty to resist against the system. If the system is designed to crush them, to destroy them, to halt their progress, to thwart their development, we have to tell them they have to resist against domination. We don't have a problem with telling black girls this. We tell them they gotta be strong. We tell them they got magic. They rock. It's their turn to lead. But we tell boys, don't make no moves. When you come up against the police, this is what you do. You make sure your hands is in the air, or put your hands where they can be seen. We teach them, hands up, don't shoot. That's what we teach our boys, man. We don't teach them to be a threat financially. We don't teach them to be a threat educationally. We don't teach them how to develop into men with full agency, who think independently. In effect, we clip off their wings, man. We declaw, defang, and neuter our boys. And that's problematic. But I'm going to take a break. And when I come back, I'm going to read this article. And, you know, usually I will rant and rave and curse and get ignorant and carry on. You know, like I came out of a Harlem juke joint. But today I'm going to try to restrain myself a little bit. But only because I actually think that the person in this story, the woman, I think she meant well. I really do. I think she intended to do a good thing. But at some point, you can't protect that boy anymore. That boy has to be able to protect himself. And if he is not thrust out there and required to protect himself and to look out for himself and to defend his own honor, he'll never learn how to do it. So I'll be back in 1 second. I'm gonna show a commercial, and make sure you donate to the Green Gorilla channel if you can. If you like the content that you receive here on an almost daily basis, make a little donation. So I'll be back in a second. Wrong answer. So we're back. I'm the G with a PhD. You're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel. It's the place where black men can express themselves freely, straight up, no chasers. And what I want to do is read an article that I saw on Yahoo News today. And the article is entitled, "A Black Student's Mother Complained About Fences. He Was Expelled." And it's written by Marie Fazio, who apparently to me is not a black woman, but she's writing about a story that she came into contact with about a black woman and her son. Okay, so this is Faith Fox and her son. I mean, these are real people. This is not an image that I'm putting up. It's, it's an image, but it's not an image of actors. These are real people. Okay, so you have Faith Fox and her son Jamel, and they live in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I think this article was written, I guess it was written today, but the picture was taken on December 9th, 2020. Okay? And so the article goes as follows. When the mother of a black ninth grader at a private school in Charlotte, North Carolina, learned last month that his English class was going to be studying August Wilson's Fences, an acclaimed play examining racism in 1950s America, she complained to the school. The drama, now, first of all, let me show you a picture of August Wilson in case you don't know who August Wilson is. August Wilson is a black man, and I'm pretty sure you've all seen Fences. Either you've seen the one where James Earl Jones plays the father, or you might have seen the one recently that I think was released somewhere in the mid, 2016, 2015, something like that, where he played Denzel the father in this play, but it was adapted for the screen. Okay? But August Wilson was a black man, and he wrote in black vernacular. This was a play written using the prose that black people, well, not the prose that black people use, but he wrote prose that mimics and copies the way that black people talk. Okay? So there's curse words in it, and the N word is in it. So apparently, Faith Fox, again, here's the picture of Miss Fox. The first thing that came up in her mind was, oh no, not my boy. I didn't send him to no school to be, not no school I'm paying for to listen to some fences to hear the N word. But anyway, the drama, which won a Pulitzer Prize in 1987 and was adapted into a critically praised film starring, okay, I told you this, Denzel Washington in 2016. It's about a black family, and it's peppered with racial slurs from the first page. Now, Faith Fox is an attorney and a single mother. So here we got right here. She's an attorney. Okay? And a single mother. And she said in an interview that she imagined her son's mostly white class at the Providence Day School reading the dialogue out loud. And she said her main concern was that the things were too mature for the group and would foster stereotypes about black families. And so then the question becomes, stereotypes. Like, what? A stereotype? Like, what kind of stereotype? You mean the stereotype in which there actually is a damn daddy present in the fucking family? Hold on, man. I shouldn't have done that. I said I was going to calm down. I wasn't going to do that today. All right? That's what I said. So let me chill out. Let me calm down. All right? Let me get back to it, man. Let me get back to it. What I'm thinking is, okay, first of all, there's a lot that could be going on here. Number one, the woman says that her main concern is the things are too mature. I just don't understand what's too mature for a freshman in high school. You mean the kind of freshman that listen to Gucci Mane and the Migos and Lil Uzi Vert and Future and all that shit? White and black kids. You mean the kids who have access to YouTube and TikTok where they see all kind of people say all kind of crazy shit? I'm just confused about it. Too mature. Too mature. And it would foster stereotypes. Again, she's a single mother. So I'm thinking that she might even be embarrassed about the story and about the fact that it's one in which there is a kind of presentation of a black family that's not absolutely functional, but the story primarily is centered around not the mother and the son, although that relationship is to some degree accounted for within the framework of fences. But primarily, it is a story about a father and a son. A father and a son. And unfortunately, little Jamel's daddy is not in the picture. Oh, man. Damn, Jamel. Damn. Golly. Now, when I was a kid going to school, I was raised by a single mom, but I did have a stepfather. So I did at least have a man around. And I've always known who my father was, and he was always, to some degree, actively involved in my life. So, I mean, I did have male role models. And then, I played football and shit. And, the coaches served as surrogate fathers. And, they were like, look, your mom is cool, but your mom ain't going to protect you out here on this field. You got to protect each other. So get your ass back down on the ground and make the tackle, little motherfucker. I mean, they cursed at us and everything, man. But it was the greatest thing in the world because they taught us to be tough, man. And, they let us drink wine and shit when we won football games. I mean, like, I think 2 or 3 years in a row, we won the championship. It was a tough game, man. And they taught us how to be tough. So, when I would go to school, man, I would, like, want my mom to, like, chill out, man. Like, don't make your presence known. Like, play the back a little bit. Don't try to make yourself as prominent and as upfront as you want to be. Just chill. You smothering. Lay on back. That's the attitude I had as I was matriculating into 9th grade. And I went to an all or primarily white high school also. And every now and then a white boy would say something he wasn't supposed to say. And we handled it. I already told you before how we handled it on one occasion on this show. But we handled it. We didn't go call our moms to handle it for us. We didn't go to the administration, the staff, the faculty. None of that shit. We handled it our goddamn selves. Because at the end of the day, if you don't handle it yourself, then guess what ends up happening? Then you get called snitches and all this kind of shit. And the same activity continues to carry on. And it never gets resolved because you never resolve it yourself. But I digress. So anyway, after a round of emails and a meeting with Fox, the school agreed to an alternate lesson for her son, Jamel, 14. So first thing they did was they said, okay, you don't want your son to participate in this. Let's give him another lesson. He doesn't have to participate. Okay, let's give him something else to do. Okay? And the school also discussed complaints with the parents of 4 other students. And I can guarantee you that those 4 other complaints were corralled around Miss Fox's complaint. I guarantee you she was in correspondence with those other parents and told them, we don't need to have our children in there hearing or listening to no fences. That's for black people. Only for black people. They're going to air out our dirty laundry. I guarantee you that was the kind of conversations that were had and that she corralled these other parents. I guarantee it. But her disagreement escalated. Fox's did. She took it to a parent's Facebook group. So first of all, she got her son a different lesson. She done went on Facebook and later fired off an email that school officials said was a personal attack on a faculty member. So now, first of all, she imagined something. Then she contacted other parents, got on Facebook, and fired shots at a faculty member at the school. Now, she's paying for this shit now. This is a woman who's paying for this education. All over fences. And on the day after Thanksgiving, the school notified Fox that Jamel would no longer be attending the school. The only one he had ever known. Now, come on now. Like, the dude is a 9th grader. He's a freshman. He's in the 9th grade. Or unless it's one of those schools that carry over, right, where you got 8 to 9 and then they send them off to high school. I don't know how the school is arranged or set up. But traditionally, if you are a freshman, a 9th grader, you just starting the school. So this, I don't know why the reporter would report that way, right? His mother called it an expulsion. The school referred to it as a termination of enrollment that had to do with the parent, not the student. So you can see what's happening here, man. This woman went off on a faculty member, got on Facebook saying some crazy shit. Basically, the boy had another lesson drawn up for him. Now you done corral other parents to create complaints. That school said, you know what? We don't need this shit. We're trying to have a lesson that interpolates African American literature into it, and it discusses something that's important. And here you got this social justice warrior, tiger mom, black queen, strong black woman who comes in and is overbearing, and then her son gets expelled from the school. Not by what the kid did, by what the mother did. All over the possibility that her child would hear the N-word, which I'm sure he's heard before. It ain't like the little kid ain't never heard the N-word. It ain't like the white students he goes to school with ain't never said the N-word. It ain't like the music that they listening to, beeps out the N-word. It's not like this boy is fresh on life. This is what I call defanging a black boy. You're defanging him. And if he has to defend himself, if he gets offended by some shit one of those students say, he needs to be the one to say it. Not you, Miss Fox. Not you. I know you mean well, but you got to let the boy off the tee. You got to let him go. Anyway, either way, what was meant to be a literary lesson in diversity and inclusion had somehow cost a black 14-year-old his place in an elite private high school. Jamel had recently made the school basketball team and said in an interview that he hoped to graduate as a Providence Day lifer. I was completely crushed, he said. There was no, please don't kick me out. I won't say this. I won't say that. My mom won't say this. My mom won't say that. So in other words, the boy, man, is like, damn. He was crushed. You got some adults who are responsible for this. He's not really responsible. He really didn't have anything to do with it, but his mother did. And I think she went overboard. That's just my opinion. I think she went overboard. Anyway, he is making plans to attend public school in January, which is going to be worse. The kind of conversations that he's going to hear and be exposed to are going to be more visceral, and they're going to be much more guttural in a public school. I guarantee you that. Not to say that kids in private school aren't gutter, because they can be. But when he gets to that public school, it's going to be a whole new level of the game. So you're going to take the boy out of private school, put him in the public school, and you're going to get the same shit anyway. Then the writer goes on to say, this year has brought about a reckoning with race at many American institutions, including schools. When widespread street protests erupted after the death of George Floyd at the hands of Minneapolis police officers, young people across the country used social media to expose racism at their schools. At Providence Day School, black students shared stories of discrimination and insensitivity on Instagram, and the school was among many that released statements against racism. And for the black members of our community, we see you, we hear you, and we will act, the statement said. The school also revised its bias complaint process and created alumni, faculty, and student diversity groups. But, Fox said, she felt the school's treatment of her son proved this was all just lip service. Then she goes on to say, you can have the important conversations about race and segregation without destroying the confidence and self-esteem of your black students and the black population. But then the question becomes, how in the fuck is showing a play or reading a play from August Wilson in and of itself going to destroy the confidence of your son? How? How's that going to destroy the confidence of your son? How? Fox said in an interview just over 7% of the school's 1,780 students are black, about 70% are white, and the rest identify as members of other minority groups. A spokeswoman for the school, Lee Dyer, said last week that officials are saddened that Jamel had to leave. As a school community, we value a diversity of thought and teach students to engage in civil discourse around topics they might not necessarily agree on, Dyer said. We have the same expectation for the adults in our community. But I guess Sister Girl wasn't having it. Not my baby. Not my baby. He ain't gonna read that play. The November 27 termination letter cited bullying, harassment, and racially discriminatory actions and slanderous accusations toward the school itself by Jamel's mother. Dyer provided a statement that said Fox had made multiple personal attacks against a person of color in our school administration, causing that person to feel bullied, harassed, and unsafe in the discussions about fences. So she and that motherfucker clowning. You done threatened the lady, you done attacked the personal character of the person, and you done made them feel unsafe, and probably not. But they probably was like, man, fuck this shit, man. We ain't got to deal with this. Fuck her son. You know they already don't give a fuck about us no way. You're just adding insult to injury. You're pouring salt in a wound that's already there. I don't know what the nationality or the race of this other individual might have been. I don't know. And I think Miss Fox meant well, though. I think she meant well. I think she wanted to protect her son. But at some point, man, you got to take off the training wheels, especially for boys. You got to let them handle that shit by themselves. Not have your mom come to the school and create all kind of turmoil and problems and trouble for you when you can stand up for yourself. It also said Fox had a history of making toxic statements about the faculty and others at the school, but did not provide examples. Fox denied this. Instead of addressing the issue, they're trying to make it seem like an angry, ranting black woman, she said. The New York Times reviewed emails and Facebook messages that Fox provided and also interviewed two other Providence Day parents who said they had similar concerns about the play and about a video the school used to facilitate conversations about the racial slur. They spoke on condition of anonymity to protect their children. The school had notified parents in early November about the lesson plan in an email, noting the frequent appearance of the slur in dialogue. It said that students would say the N-word instead of reading it aloud. It said time would be devoted to considering the word itself and some of its more nuanced aspects of meaning. The email included a link to PBS NewsHour interview with Randall Kennedy, a black professor at Harvard, discussing the history of the slur while using it repeatedly. It wasn't something that I thought was appropriate for a room full of affluent, elite, and white children, Fox said. And I can understand that. I get it. I understand that. But they already provided an alternative lesson for your son. They said he didn't have to be involved. Okay, end the story. Your son doesn't have to be involved in the lesson. Over with. But if I'm a teacher and I say I'm doing this lesson and you say I don't want my kid to be involved in it, I don't think it's right. Okay, well, your kid don't have to be involved in it then. Here's an alternative lesson for your son. I'll holler at you. But then you still got some shit to say? I'm going to tell you, lady, your son ain't got to participate in this. But I'm teaching this. Now, to be quite frank, I have taught about the N-word. I've used David Chappelle. I've used Chris Rock. I've used Snoop Dogg. And I've used Don Imus in order to try to talk about this issue related to race. I have. I've done it in courses myself. But here's the reality of the situation. These kids are already exposed to the N-word. This some shit about you. Personally about you. These kids need to be having this kind of conversation. Otherwise, how are they going to even get around the subject matter? What's the appropriate way to talk about race without exactly getting to it? Without just being upfront and confrontational about it? What's the way to get to it the right way? Because it's already going to cause problems as soon as you get into this discussion to begin with. There's no easy way to do it. Anyway, Dyer, the spokeswoman, said the school had introduced the study of fences in 2017 in response to black parents who wanted more lessons addressing race. So they giving you what you want. You got a Pulitzer Prize winning play discussing black family life. And you say that ain't good enough. You don't want that one. So now you get to pick and choose which ones they're going to use. In past years, there had been only one complaint about the play, she said. After her son was offered an alternative assignment, Fox posted about fences to the Facebook group. Other parents said they too had concerns about the play and the PBS video. So they don't want their kids to hear the N-word. Well, take all their rap music away from them then. Take their iPhones, their iPads. Fuck it. Take all that shit away from them then. Because they already done heard the word. You probably done used the word. Let's keep it real. You done probably called him a little nigga. You already probably called his daddy a nigga. And just because you're an attorney don't mean you don't use the word nigga. Let's be upfront about that. Anyway, one comment directed her to an online essay by a student from a prior year who described the dagger she felt cutting deeper and deeper with each mention of the slur in the video. Oh, she felt cut deeper and deeper, huh? Okay. That's when Fox sent an email to the school's director of equity and inclusion, calling her a disgrace to the black community. So now we know that she went off on a person who was black. So now we know she went off on a black person, called him a disgrace. So they already done named the individual who she bullied and all that. We already know now. 10 days later, Jamel was kicked out of the school. Fox said that she was surprised, but that she does not regret sending the email in the heat of the moment. So she acted on impulse. Got her son kicked out the motherfucking school. After Jamel's expulsion, a letter signed by concerned black faculty members was sent to parents of the 4 other students who had complained, arguing the literary merits of fences. More than likely, some black people okayed this shit. The black faculty at the school and the administrators probably approved it. It said great African American writers do not create perfect black characters when they are trying to show the damaging legacy of racism. That is a view held by many critics and academics. Sandra G. Shannon, a professor of African American literature at Howard University and founder of the August Wilson Society, said schools should not shy away from the harsh realities of the past. Katie Reiser, a professor at Harvard Graduate School of Education, said fences is taught widely in middle school and high school, but she also urged that it be done with care. It's a telling story about a black family that, if it's the only text or it's only, one of a few texts about black people that students read, might give white students in particular a sense that black families are all like this black family, she said. Fox said the fight to be heard as a black parent at a predominantly white institution had been exhausting. She recalled when Jamel came home upset in elementary school after a field trip to a former slave plantation. After she complained, the school ended the annual trips, she said. So we can't go to the plantation no more, can't learn about slavery no more, because little Jamel felt crushed. Little Jamel was upset. He had to learn that niggas was picking cotton and shit. Damn. The other day she said her son told her he finally understood why Black Lives Matter is so important, and it's not just about George Floyd and all of these people dying in the streets, but it also has to do with how we're treated everywhere else. And so this is the little lesson. This is the lesson little Jamel got from all of this. So, look here, man. I don't know what to say about this, man. Look, all I can say is, I'm going to fade back to the screen. I'm going to I'm going to try to get to the screen. Yeah, okay. So, I don't know what to say, man. I don't know how y'all feel about this, but I'm like, man, come on, man. Like, these kids are on steroids, man, nowadays. These kids hear everything, man. These kids are influenced by and have access to porn, all kind of shit, man. I mean, I want to know what y'all think about this shit, man. I don't know what to say. I think the woman has basically already neutered her son, man. You already got the little boy thinking that reading fences in his freshman year of high school is tantamount to getting shot down and killed in the streets. And you got arguments amongst black faculty members and black staff members at this damn school and this woman. And little Jamel is caught up in the middle of it. I don't know, man. What y'all think? I think she done just basically defanged her son, man. You got to let the little dude, man, grow up and be experienced in ways in which he can fend for himself, man. And the problem of race, it exists whether you confront it or talk about it or discuss it or not. The N-word exists whether you talk about it, discuss it or not. It would have been a learning moment for little Jamel. He could have been a hoop star at the Providence school, but now He's going to go to a public school near you in North Carolina, man. So I don't know, man. You tell me what you think. I'm gonna take a break right quick. If ain't nobody gonna tell me what they think, I'm out of this joint, man. Okay, I'm the G with a PhD. You're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel, the place where black men can express themselves freely, straight up, no chasers. I have one guest. I want him to just hold on a minute because I want to address something that's going on in the chat. So I got some person by the name of JD Powers, and he says, "Hey, there's a nutcase on Parler with the same handle as you. Was that you?" Uh, could be. I don't know. I don't know what Parler is, but um, could be. I don't know. I have been called a nutcase before, also, by the way. MLR says, I sense Jamil will have a tough time adjusting to the world outside of his mother once he is grown. Society will expect him to be a man, but he will not have those tools in his tool belt. That's what I'm worried about. Michelle Grant says, was the kid having any trouble at school? And look, I don't think the kid was having any trouble at school. It seems like the kid was getting along pretty well. He was upset about going to the plantation and learning that the Negroes had to pick the cotton. But I mean, come on, man. Anybody's going to be upset by that. When you learn the history of racism in this country, you're going to be upset and it's going to evoke emotions. But you can't hide it. What are we going to do? Like, just eradicate the history? We got to tell it. It has to be told. So I don't think he was. In fact, he had just made the high school basketball team. So Sir Anthony says she should send him to live with his father. And we got a brother out there, I think, man, that might be with the COVID. And Damon Harris, if you got that, brother, man, I want you to be well, man. My brother has that as well. My brother's in ICU. I want y'all to, pray for him if you can. But, brother, take care of yourself, man. Get well. And Michelle Grant follows up with a statement. She says, it sounds crazy what she did, but I got to hear her tell it too. I mean, what was you thinking, you funny man? Anyway, man. Oh, Parler is a new hotspot for MAGA country. And some in the alt-right. Yeah, I don't even know what the fuck that is, man. I'm not in Trump country. I'm not I don't cape for Democrats, but I don't cape for the Republican Party either. So I got two visitors here, and I'm gonna get to them one-on-one. So let me get to Black Kryptonite first. Black Kryptonite, what's going on, my brother? How are you doing tonight? Can you hear me? Black Kryptonite.
Hey, what's up, man? What's up, man?
What's going on, brother? How are you?
Just got out the hospital with this COVID and pneumonia.
Oh man,
I was there for like 4 days.
My God, man, get well, my brother. Get well.
Thank you.
And Michelle Grant wants to donate, so the donation can go to $G with a PhD. I think you can see it on the screen. That's my Cash App handle. $G with a PhD. Thank you, Michelle Grant, for even considering donating to the Green Gorilla channel. A lot of black women come in here and they think that all I do is go off on black women, but that's not the case. I'm just here to tell the truth and give you a perspective from the angle of a black man. And sometimes it's going to be rough and harsh, but I'm going to treat you just like I would treat any other person I would come into contact with. If you black, white, red, brown, purple, whether you got breasts or you got a a flat chest, whatever the case may be. You got testicles or a uterus. It don't matter to me. I treat people all the same. So anyway, my brother, Black Kryptonite, let me stop talking, man, and let you get to your point.
Hey, what's up? Man, I'll tell you this one. This story is near and dear to me. I was at the market listening in. Excuse me, still recovering. I'll tell you what it is. It's the pussification of the male in America today. Simply put, I've been coaching wrestling for 20 years.
Yeah.
I can tell you almost the exact point of when boys were not allowed to be young men anymore. There was a point where I could yell at a parent and tell them to get the hell out of my wrestling room, and if you don't want your child to wrestle for me, take them with you.
Right.
I even had kids try to run when the parents would sit down and wait for the children. The parents would be like, "Get your ass back on that mat."
And you know what? Here's the funny thing, Kryptonite, man. Like, okay, so I got a daughter, man. My daughter is gonna be 18 in a few weeks. And I used to do MMA training and shit. So
Fun stuff.
She wanted to do it because she saw me doing it. So this was about maybe 10 years ago. So I was doing it. She wanted to do it, and so she didn't know how visceral it would be. You know what I'm saying? But I treated her just like I would like treat anybody else. I'm like, look, get your ass back there on the mat. Fuck that shit. All the crying, like you can cry to daddy later. Right now, you about to whip some ass on this mat.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Boy, girl, whatever the case may be, she wasn't at the age where there's any real body difference between boys and girls. But the girl who was there was a little white girl. That little girl, was smaller than her, but she had more experience than her. So she knew all the moves. She knew how to arm bar. She knew how to, do the chokes, and she knew all the moves. So my daughter was kind of at a disadvantage, but eventually my daughter began to pick up the skill and learn. But that little girl, the little white girl, had been a state champion. But I'm like, fuck, man, all this crying and shit. No, get your ass back out there.
I remember when I was teaching my son at this little junior league team, and he was like, "Daddy, he's not letting me do the moves." I took him by his head, and I said, "You got to make him, son." And that fire lit up in his ass, and boy, he was fucking that little white boy up. Doing
and that's
Navy
what you got.
breath.
You gotta do that, man. You gotta do it. But look, it's bad if you do it to girls or boys. You can't remove them from all danger or all discomfort. You can't. And I mean, but you want your impulse though is to protect them, though. That's your impulse.
You see, the way my parents always teach me, and I'm pretty sure it was similar to yours. I love you, but eventually you're gonna have to protect everybody around you.
That's right.
As a man, it's your duty to protect. It is your joy. I am what I am because of what I conquer, what I protect, what I could diplomat. There's so many multifaceted things when it comes to masculinity. Like you said earlier, if I consider myself a lion, you consider yourself a gorilla. They're both apex predators. They both top of the food chain. You take away their fundamental defenses, you neuter them. You make a cat go to a litter box to use the bathroom, you neuter them. You make a silverback sit down and eat a banana or play the tambourines, you neuter them. And I'll give you this story about this one wrestler I had. Very talented, but yet you've seen the damage of what happens when you never had a father figure. He claims he had his uncle, but you could tell his uncle wasn't in his life like that because what's my half Puerto Rican cousin would say from New York? He's too bitch made.
Right.
It's sad to say this about some of your students, but guess what? You can't call me a liar. Fuck them. And every time he would get in a confrontation with one of the other wrestlers, he'd get mad, swell up. I'm used to, I let it go for a little minute because it's a male dominated space. You got the pecking order. Right. Try your best not to get pecked on. So Every time they'd go out in the street and he'd be ready to call his mother. I said, dude, I had to tell him. I had to tell his mother, you gonna make it. He wanted me to coach him. He used to live with me for some months too. And I used to tell him, I said, dude, you want to join the military? Yeah. I'm gonna join because he was also in our JROTC. I said, dude, you need to get the hell out of that habit of calling your mother when you get in trouble.
That's
Even
right.
calling your uncle. I said, because when you're in basic training, like when I was in Fort Benning years ago, motherfucker fuck with you. You had to fuck with them.
That's right.
And guess what? A lot of times when you 18 and you on that station, a lot of people take that silly ass high school shit right into basic training. They want to form cliques. They want to bully people. You ain't gonna bully me without me breaking your jaw.
That's right. Like I
And
tell people all the time, man. Look here, Black Krypton. I got another person on the
oh yeah,
invite, but I do want to say this, man. Like, look, at least my mother understood that if this boy's gonna grow up and be tough, then I gotta lay off of him. I can't be there around the corner every time we get into a jam. So I remember
mm-hmm.
the first fight I ever had. My mother told me, if you run back up here and tell me that this little boy whipped your ass, I'm gonna whip your ass. Now you gotta decide.
Mm-hmm.
You want him to whip your ass or do you want me to whip your ass? Because if
Mm-hmm.
you run back up here again, I'm whipping your ass. Now go whip his ass. And I went out
Yeah,
there and I whipped his ass. I've been whipping ass ever
exactly,
since. I mean,
exactly.
I ain't gonna say I ain't never got my ass beat, but I mean,
Well, you take some lumps, you give some lumps. As long as you give more than you take. And I
exactly.
and I want to end off with this. Even it was a running gag even when I was in the hospital with Cope. They were like, "Boy, weak or strong, you still a warrior, aren't you?" I may retire, I may resign, but I'm forever remain one.
That's
They
right.
were, and the single mother is the single most detrimental thing to the warriorhood of the black male.
Yeah, I think so. I mean I think that's just a fact. Because
And
they're not oriented towards warrior mentality.
no,
Yeah,
they're the
I mean,
protected.
yeah.
I've always said the pro- the protector should never really take the opinion of the protected
Yeah,
because you're living two different worlds. And even on my channel, I speak about that to a point where I'm like, look, the way you raise your sons is going to be a blessing or a detriment. And if I took a list and I charted it off year after year, like Oliver Queen said in Arrow, you failed this society. But go ahead, Professor.
well, I hear you, my brother. I'm gonna have to cut off, man, and get you off, man, and get this other brother on here. But thank you so much joining the Green Gorilla channel tonight.
Definitely a pleasure with this one.
And
Later.
I agree. I agree with what you say, man. And I'll holler at you in a minute, man. Let me know exactly where to visit you because I haven't visited you and had a conversation with you before, but I would like to.
Just come over to my channel was Charles Faulkner Jr. And
Okay.
just come over anytime you want to come over when I'm doing a show. Feel free.
Yes, sir. I will do, man. Take care, my
Uh,
brother, and get over, man. Get over that hump, man.
oh yeah, we getting over that one. Peace to you. Peace to you, man.
Peace, man. Be good, brother. Oh, Malika Babane, how you doing, my brother?
Peace, big homie. How you doing, man?
Hey, how are you, man? And Black Kryptonite just said something I think was pretty profound, but nowadays, the very suggestion of it would draw the ire of many people who consider themselves to be social justice warriors. Like
Mm-hmm.
if we don't have a warrior culture, and like the first thing we do for our kids is we tell them, don't be a threat, don't be a threat, don't look like a threat, don't even you know become a threat. We want you to not get hurt. We don't want you to get harmed. That is not a warrior culture. The warrior culture is going to tell you you die a warrior. You understand? You stand and you die and
Yes,
you
sir.
fight. That's
Well,
a war. But
well,
we're
you know
not.
why, brother? Here's one thing. You're a student of history just like me. We got to go way back 400 to 500 years when our ancestors were brought here. The idea of being a warrior and being family orientated and having the black man be the head was stripped from us. And also, when you recognize the hierarchy, white man, white woman, black man, that has been perpetuated for all these years that we've been in captivity in America, the black woman has been programmed to not want her child to be a warrior. She wants the black man to fight for her, but she doesn't want him to be a warrior. She wants him to fight for her for other reasons in other situations, but she wants it done to see fit to her benefit. See, here's warrior thinking. What Ice Cube did with the platinum plan um, going to Trump and to Biden, that was acting as a warrior. Those four women on Cocktails with Queens, they were against that because you're going against your programming. When you speak and other brothers speak like BGS and Angry Man and brother Charles Faulkner, that's warrior thinking. When I'm talking to you, that's warrior thinking. August Wilson created a play about black people from the 20s on up to the 60s in Baltimore. That's warrior thinking. And getting to this woman here, first of all, it's funny. I was laughing. I said, "This is a black Karen."
Yeah.
You're dealing with a woman. And here's the funny thing: the play Fences has nothing to do with this. It has something to do with a black woman, which she thinks is right and what she wants, and she's trying to want to create a insulated life for her son. You can't do that. He's a black man. He has to learn about society. What you're doing is you're turning him into a pussy and a punk and a wimp and a blue male bitch ass nigga.
Uh oh. Uh-oh.
You- She is. You are turning him into what you don't like. You're turning him into a nigga.
And
The
you know that.
problem, I'm sorry, go ahead, brother. I don't
No,
want
you
to.
go ahead. You go ahead.
The problem is when you insulate your child, you keep him in the womb of just this fucking this bullshit. Not even social justice warrior, because it has nothing to deal with that. It's just bullshit. You became a problem. And what you did was you ruined an education process for your son. She won't hold herself accountable for it because, a lot of black women don't want to deal with guilt, shame, and the need to be right, and also accountability. When it all turns around, you're making a big stink about a play that has the word nigga in it. And like how you just said, where you been at? Where have you been at? You've been born in America. It's in music, it's in literature, it's in TV shows. You see it. It's the 21st century. This young man who's 14 years old, I'm pretty sure, and his mother's a lawyer, so I'm pretty sure he has video games, he has a tablet, he has a laptop, he has TV, he has access to everything. So from the time he came out of her womb to the time he's heard nigga and he's heard other different words that disparage us.
Right.
But you have a feeling about a Pulitzer Prize winning playwright who's showing your son about history, his history, back in the 50s and 60s, but also a connection between a father and a son. And you're worried about a few words. Yeah, you cutting your son's balls off and you turn him into a blue pill nigga. But the problem is, it's not even that, is when you see women like this, they don't want growth. She wants him to grow, but no, you don't want him to grow into a fully actualized man. And that cripples him. You're turning him into the man that you don't want. And a lot of sisters do this. But the problem is she's caught up in her own fervor and her own bullshit because she wants to be right and she wants to be a rabble rouser. And she gets her son kicked out of school. Explain
Mm.
that to me. That has nothing to do with her being a lawyer. That has nothing to do with her education. That has nothing to do with her six-figure income. That has nothing to do with wherever she lives and whatever sorority she's a member of or whatever big church she's a member of. No, that has something to do with her personally. That has something to do with your issues and your problems. And here's another big thing. Where's his father at?
Yeah, that's
Did
what
he talk this over with a pop? With his
Yeah,
pop?
that's the thing I was wondering about. Where's the dad at? And that's why at the beginning I made mention of the fact that she might have been off put by the play precisely because there's a father son relationship in the context of the play. And I'm reminded like the greatest part of that play is when the father says, "You don't like me, do you? You don't like me." And
You
then the
don't have
father
to like me.
responds, "Like you? I go out of here every morning, busting my butt, putting up with them crackers every day because I like you? You're about the biggest fool I ever saw. It's my job. It's my responsibility. You understand that? A man got to take care of his family. You live in my house. You sleep on my bed. Wear my clothes. Fill your belly up with my food because you my son. You my flesh and blood. Not because I like you. Because it's my duty to take care of you. I owe you a responsibility. Let's get this straight right here before you goes any further. I ain't got to like you. You know what I'm saying? So,
Exactly. And can I
but
tell you something? When you said that, and I remember seeing that in the movie, I was like, wow. And that hit me in the head. It was like, yes, that's what manhood is about. See, that's the thing. The problem is, and this is the biggest problem. See, you, me, a lot of men and sensible women that have our back understand that whole play was about manhood and masculinity. Now, the main character, he was flawed. He had a child out of wedlock.
yeah,
But at the same time, remember his mother said to him, your father wasn't great, but he did what he had to do. And that was one thing you had to realize. This man was a working class black man. He had a house. This is in 1950s Baltimore now. He had a house. They showed him he came home. He gave his wife the money. The wife took care of the bills and everything. He had a son. He took care of his son, made sure things were right. He did everything going on, even though his brother had a mental disorder, but he loved his brother. He did what he could do. This was a man that worked. He was like my grandfather. My grandfather busted his ass 35 years as a spot welder here in Philadelphia.
right.
This is what black men do. This is what black men did. That's the sign of what black men had to do when they came out of Reconstruction. But the thing is, what she's doing is she's denying her son the understanding of what a black man is and what he needs to do as a man, taking care of a family, handling business, and showing back then this is what they did. He wasn't perfect. He's not supposed to be perfect. But this is what this man was. In literature, this is what you're calling the hero's journey. The man's arc was that he's trying to tell his son, this is what you need to do to be a man. But the problem is, when this woman wants to stop it, you're stopping your son from learning a lesson of being a man. See, but this is the type of woman, because she doesn't know how to be a man. What right do you have to deny your son about learning about masculinity and learning what it is to be a man? That
And
story.
I just look, Fences is a great work of art, man.
Yes, it
And
is.
it's not, again, the characters are flawed, as all characters are mostly flawed in the greatest books that you've ever read. You read Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky,
Mhm.
it's a flawed character, Raskolnikov. You read Madame Bovary, you got a flawed character. You read Catcher in the Rye, you get a flawed character. You get you get flawed characters in the greatest works of literature.
Can I
You
say
just
something, brother?
go ahead.
You read Mein Kampf, that's definitely a flawed character.
Oh well, shit. You ain't gonna too much read that in high school.
but I'm saying, but the thing is, you can't shield your child from that. But what are you gaining from that? What does she gain from that?
Well, it's this politically correct culture, man, where They teach about having safe spaces, and people get triggered, so they want trigger warnings, and they want rooms where people can go and be safe, and they could have coloring, and they could have
And you wonder why,
pet animals and stuff like
and you
that.
wonder why we're so fucked up now. You wonder why, like Charles said, there's a pussification there. When you
I
wonder
think
why
so. I
when you
think
wonder
so.
why when you wonder why when black women, you wonder why you have black men that don't know how to stand up. You've created these Frankenstein monsters. BGS has said it. You've created generations of men that you don't want.
But here's the one thing though that that is bad. Okay, at one time, black men, what, and before black, men in America were black men in America. They were black men in Africa,
Uh-huh.
and every society had its different social positions. And one of the things I would assume that would be part of a boy becoming a man in Africa would be him going through trials and rites of passage
Uh-huh.
to make the transition from boyhood into manhood. And unfortunately, in this culture, there is no transition from boyhood to manhood. There is no manhood writ large. It's just this is why it's funny to me when you study gender studies. They talk about gender as being a performance. Well, in
Uh-huh.
Western culture, I think for the most part it is, because there's no role to really actually play. Like the hero's journey is about becoming something.
Yes.
But
Yes.
in this society, you become anything you want to at any moment. All you have to do is put on one mask or put on the outfit of that of which you want to be at the moment. You don't have to be fully bought into it. It's like a Halloween costume.
Yeah, but you
It's
know what
like a
that's
it's like the actor's mask. You know,
but you
uh,
said something very prevalent, man. And what how in the past few generations where, and especially now, you can be who you want. No, you had this is if you were born into what you want, and not what you want, if you were born into this role which you're supposed to be, you have to do that. But you see, this is the problem. The great Baba Dick Gregory said, when man messes with nature, it fucks it up. When you start to mess with nature, you fuck it up. Whoever you believe in, whatever your God or whatever your gods are, whatever you follow, you were born to be a man. I was born to be a man. You were born in to be a man. Your daughters were born to be women. That is your role. The problem is when you, as man, start saying you could be whatever you want. You could do whatever you want to do here. You can do whatever you want to do. I'm gonna tell you a little story. My niece, who's 21, she told me, she said she had met a guy and she was dating him, and he was thinking about all this free bullshit thinking. He says, I want to see myself as a tree. And I said to her, I said, leave that nigga alone quick. And I said to her, I said, don't fuck with him. And and her mother just started laughing. I said, leave that fucking nigga alone. And she was like, well, why? I said, because he ain't about shit. I said, you need to deal with men who know what they want to be. Deal with a man who's fully actualized. I said, you lucky I wasn't there. And if he was talking that bullshit, even though I've been in your mom's house, I would have told him to leave. I
I
said,
hear
you
you,
don't
bro.
need to deal with no men that talking that bullshit. You're a man. You have a balls and you have a dick and you were born to be a man. You don't want to talk and be around no nigga that's talking about how I'm a tree. I want to be a tree. Fuck that shit. That's a weak punk ass pussy.
He might have been joking too,
I
man.
don't care. You don't joke around me like that because I'm gonna look at you like you crazy. Especially you gonna say that some dumb shit around a bunch of people. No, but this is like what you're saying when you were talking with your daughter, telling her about get on that mat. No, get in there. This is the same thing when you're dealing with her when she's dealing with a man. Get on that mat and get with a man that's a man.
Yeah.
You don't want to deal with no weak. We're at war, man. Psychological war.
Yeah,
You don't want
I
to
think
deal.
we are at war, man. Like I think we are at war over the hearts and the minds of black folks. And
Yeah.
right now we're at the place where we've fully bought into uh and I don't know if Marcus Aurelius is listening or to keep it 100, but like we are adherents of slave morality. I mean,
Uh-huh.
if you, I don't know if you know the difference between slave morality and master morality, but I mean, it's born out of this Nietzschean idea that you know uh, that Christianity, for the most part, uh, created a moral axiology in
Uh-huh.
which instead of striving to be strong, you strive to level and to equalize the playing field, such
Yeah.
that people who are weaker can come to the fore. And he argues that this is done out of envy, and but the answer to it is not to weaken the position of the stronger person, but to become strong yourself and to assert yourself, assert your will to power. Now I'm kind of caught between a rock and a hard place with that because
Me
I don't
too.
believe that you should be a tyrant, as you operate throughout the world and seek to just subjugate people and use your brute force in order to overpower them. I just don't believe that that's the right way to carry yourself. But at the same time, you know you do have to be willing and able to defend yourself. You know, and I don't think that. Look, I don't. So there's some things that I agree with about master versus slave morality, and there's some things I don't. Right, but and I'll explain to you, where I stand on this at some other point. But you know, uh, but I think that black folks have too wholeheartedly adopted, this attitude of slave morality. Like it's our job to make sure that everyone does what's fair and what's just and what's right. And people just don't operate that way, man. They don't operate that way. They never have and they never will. Now you might be able to check people and put them on a guilt trip because of that. But I'm just reminded of I did a show a long time ago about justice and what white people think about it. And you know, justice is the advantage of the stronger to these people, man. I mean, these people come out of a warrior culture.
Mm-hmm.
These folks, man, they are members of the Germanic tribes. They haven't
Mm-hmm.
forgotten who they are. They don't have any illusions about who they are and what their roots are. These are people who used to put on blue ochre over their bodies, man, and go fight without armor. They fought the Roman army and sacked it eventually. It took them centuries, but they did.
And they also, when they defeated their enemies, they also raped them too.
Hey, well, that's a whole different story.
But I mean, this is what we're talking about, the mentality.
Yeah.
But the funny thing with us, when you
You got to know who
uh,
you're dealing with. All I'm trying
yeah.
to say is you got to know who you're dealing with. And I even talk. So one day, so I was doing a director reading with a graduate student, and this graduate student just so happened to be a priest, and
Mm-hmm.
so he wanted to learn more about race, and he's a Roman Catholic priest, and he has a black parish though, and
Mm-hmm.
so I wanted to kind of see like what he was doing with the parish and how he would treat it, the people in the parish, and he for the most part I think the guy was pretty fair, and that he wanted what was best for the people in his parish. I believe that, but I would have these candid and open conversations with him, and he would have open conversations with me, and he would readily admit like, look, you're dealing with white people, man.
Mm-hmm.
I know their history. You know their history. And their history is the history of slaughter,
Mm-hmm.
rape, pillage, and plundering. And that ethos is still there.
Mm-hmm.
Like people like to hide American imperialism throughout the world. It's still there.
Mm-hmm.
Like we got troops everywhere throughout the world right now, and these people are raping, pillaging, and plundering, man. They're doing all of that right now.
Mm-hmm.
But we act like it's not happening. Like in part of military conquest, unfortunately, Malika Babane is sexual uh, uh, violence.
Mm-hmm.
It's part and parcel of war. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you saw Abu Ghraib. You saw it. I mean, you did see those images, right?
Mm-hmm.
So um, it's unfortunate, but
But you know
it,
what
it
the funny thing is? You just said something, right? You just talked and you said something and you spoke truth to power, but also you gave history. That's what that woman's son needs. He
yeah, I think
has
so.
to he has to hear that from men. He has to hear what we're talking about. His eyes need to get big like cups, saucers. His ears got to burn and he has to realize it. Now, I'm not saying his mother doesn't teach him about that, but then when the young man says some bullshit about Black Lives Matter, I'm like, please. And I'm like, here we go. God, you just filled this child's head up with a bunch of bullshit and rhetoric, and now he's going to be fucked up for the next 20, 30 years or the rest of his life if he don't get detox from this fucking bullshit.
Yeah,
He's repeating, no, Black Lives Matter. I would tell him, Black Lives Matter don't care about you.
yeah.
They
It's a
don't
lot,
give a.
man. Hey, man, we all deaf, dumb, and blind out here, man. Malika. I wish we were in a better, in a different kind of position. And look, I was raised this way, like because I went to Catholic schools, man, and I went to
Mhm,
private schools too. I grew up in the hood, but I did go to these private schools, and they teach you to be a passive.
mhm,
They teach you to be a pacifist. They teach you to be oriented towards justice in relation to the slave. That's what we're taught.
mhm,
And I just remember, in high school learning about Emperor Constantine,
mhm,
and how he basically said, under this symbol, you will conquer. You
mhm.
know, it's a different thing than to hope to having a spot reserved for you in the afterlife than it is to conquer with the symbol of the cross. Those are two different orientations towards religion.
But you know what the funny thing is? What you just said there about Constantine and the Council of Nicaea. That see, you're you're an intellectual. You're a black intellectual. You're a teacher. If you taught this to this young man and you telling him and you would translate Constantine, the Council of Nicaea, of how the way it translates to today's modern world, you're helping him and realize, oh shit, this is just like how the way racism is. This is just how the way, America and how the way, the church uses religion in order to control people. You tell them how the way when Christians would come into Africa and they would brainwash them into using Christianity and thinking that, you are God's damned people. But I mean, this is what we need to teach our boys. Physically, mentally, and spiritually, our boys need to know how to be warriors.
And even if they don't play the role as a warrior, they at least need to. It's like to be in a militia.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, all the white men in the United States at a certain time had to be ready to pull up a musket, man, and put some gunpowder in that motherfucker and fire it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what they had to do. Otherwise, they would have been overtaken by the natives, man. Bottom line, or black folks.
Mm-hmm.
So they were willing to do what they wanted, what they had to do in their minds. They were willing to exert their will to power. They were willing to do that. And unfortunately, it is the case though. You say, this is what was profound about what you and Black Kryptonite said. Look, black women want warriors. They want it. They want to be close to that strength. But when they're close to it, they do everything they can to destroy it.
Because they've been conditioned to.
And they have been conditioned to do it. I ain't gonna lie, because they haven't been trained to become warriors themselves. They've been trained to become social justice warriors. They've been trained by feminism, which
Yes.
which feminism, by the
Yes.
way, is a variant of slave morality. It just
Mm-hmm.
is. And unfortunately, racial politics in this country and race theorizing is also, like the civil rights kind. It's predicated upon slave morality. It just is. I hate to say that. So one day I'll talk about that more fully. But right now, I'm about to break off, my brother, man. It was a pleasure to engage in conversation with you tonight. I
Oh,
really
thank you
enjoyed
very
it, man.
much. Thank you for having this great topic, and thank you for allowing me to come up on your platform.
Hey,
It's
man,
always a
anytime.
pleasure to talk to you and listen to you, my brother.
It's a pleasure to have had a discussion with you tonight as well, man. Take care, man, and be good.
You too, my brother.
All right, man. So look, man, I'm the G with a PhD. You're tuned into the Green Gorilla channel. It's the place where black men can actually speak freely and to, be straight, no chaser with it. And, sometimes people come into this space and they hear things that, might be to them radical or off putting. I don't know how if you tuned into the channel, though. I mean, you pretty much know what you're going to get when you come here. But, look, men have a way of seeing shit and women have a way of seeing shit. And some black men think like, you know, of, they're oriented towards the social justice warrior positioning. I am to some degree, but I also understand that, look, there's no way to get past this, man. White people are not going to, through the kindness and goodness of their hearts, make a change for the better for black folks. They're just not going to do that shit. So you have to use what power you have in order to try to change the conditions which exist. And you're going to have to let men be men. If you really want to see a substantive change, you got to let men be a part of the equation. That's all I got to say, man. So, I don't believe in, trying to stop women from being able to function and flourish and to thrive. That's not my goal, but you can't do the same to men, though. You can't try to prevent them from being able to function, to flourish and thrive either. So that's my word on that, man. But I want to thank everyone who contributed tonight. I want to thank Michelle Grant. Thank you for your donation, MLR. Thank you for your donation, Vernon King, and the countless others who've hit me up on the super chat. I want to give a shout out and a thank you. But I got one more person who's in the stream. Keep it 100 just came in. What's up, brother? How you doing, man?
Hey, what's going on, man? I just walked back in the house and I heard you mention something about slave morality.
Yeah. So like I've been discussing this for quite a while. Like it's funny that you would just throw this, bring this to my attention. But so Friedrich Nietzsche is, he came up with this idea of slave morality and the Ubermensch, which is the overman. And I mean, the idea is that look, human beings have drives, and one of the drives that they have is to control the environment and to position themselves in such a way as to be able to have power and to exemplify that power guiltlessly.
Mm-hmm.
And today, the disposition that black people have is that since they don't have power, a lot, I ain't gonna say all black people, but since they don't have power, what they do is they hurl insults at those who do have it. And so it's like, okay, well, instead of saying to themselves, okay, well, let's overpower that powerful motherfucker and then, consume him. We say, oh, well, that person in power is wrong. They're unjust. They're not fair. Right. And so this is a difference in orientation towards morality itself. So uh, the idea is that if you're a noble or you're a person of noble birth, you're good, not because of some criteria that you follow. You are the embodiment of good. You get what I'm saying? Do you
Well,
understand?
I
Do,
mean, go ahead, continue. Yeah,
you are the
I do.
embodiment as a noble. Like I mean, this is the way it used to be. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
if you are a noble, you are good. You are powerful, and you don't show any inhibitions. You don't think twice about whether it's fair or not that you have slaves.
Yeah, because you make the rules.
You make the rules.
Morality is set by those who make the rules.
So Nietzsche, I think, was worried about, in the end, and I think he predicted all of the shit that you see now. Like the kind of splintering and the fracturing of society. and different people not really actually having any value orientation whatsoever. I mean, it's all subjective, and I don't know if I would classify Nietzsche as a moral subjectivist, but I think he kind of fits into the category of a moral nihilist. Um, but that's just my viewpoint. But go ahead, man. I'm sorry, man. I just wanted to preface my
No,
statements with that.
no, I got you. Um, I mean, before I even came across any of this stuff, I mean, I think our very first conversation, me and you, was kind of about this. And I've always said, people will do what they can do and can get away with, and their morality is set by themselves unless they are following the morality of you know
The herd.
the herd, or the society, or set by the ruling class. You know what I'm saying? And you know I never, like, once I was old enough to understand, you know I never thought it made sense to me that I would follow rules set in opposition to my progress and well-being. I never understood that. And to come across this stuff and to see that there's actually studies and names and different things based on things that I've been saying for a very long time. When you talk to people about this stuff, they think you're nuts. And because they've been taught that these types of thoughts are bad, they think that you're a bad person. I mean, we've been taught that, everything we do is supposed to benefit other people. Like, we're supposed to ignore our self-interest, and that's inherently good. When the people who run shit, the people who we aspire to be like, don't follow that.
But
It,
but
yeah.
here's the funny thing about slave morality, man. Of course, I mean, Nietzsche thought it would be the undoing of Western culture, man. In the end, I don't think that I think white people are good at giving lip service to notions of right and good and justice and so on and so forth. But I don't think that they're actually. I don't think they follow that shit at all, man.
No.
I don't think that they do. They put on, like, they're about equality and justice and so on and so forth. But I don't think they're for that shit at all. You know,
See, slave morality works as long as you're not the slave.
precisely.
If listen, I think what he meant is, okay, it'll be the end if this is something that we practice, but slave morality works if you follow master morality, and you have people beneath you practice slave morality. I remember telling my guys years ago, I said, what we need to do is stop trying to convince sheep to be lions, because lions don't convince sheep to be lions. Lions just eat sheep.
Yeah.
I said this long time ago. And but again, when you say that, of course, a sheep thinks a lion is evil, because a lion is doing something that is not beneficial to the sheep.
Yeah.
But in the lion's morality, eating sheep is good because I get to eat. You understand? So and right and wrong is a point of view. I've been saying that forever. It's something that Kanye says, and they think that he's nuts. But we ain't gonna talk about Kanye today. But these are just things that I look around, and it's like you're in a herd, or you're standing physically in a herd, and you're looking around at people, and you're saying something that's different than what they believe, and based on, again, what they've been trained, they think you're a bad guy. And that's where a lot of us find ourselves when we go against social norms and things of this nature. Like all of this stuff is the matrix. All of this stuff is indoctrination. And, people who look past that, people who obey or follow their nature, their instinct.
Oh yeah, I mean, look, Nietzsche is basically going to say this, man. Look, slave morality is just based on envy and resentment. And I'll say it again. Like, so whatever the master likes and they love, the slave hates. So if the master has big fat mansion and a yacht, the slave hates it. Okay, you got the master has, property and they have bounty, well then the slave resents it. Okay, and so they devalue what the master values. Okay, that's part of it, right? And the master morality just is predicated upon being strong, but slave morality comes out of being weak. Okay, and he also is going to say, look, resentment is a reaction to weakness. It's to strength. It's the weak's reaction to strength. And so basically what they do is they call it oppression. Okay, so ultimately what slave morality is the inverse of master morality. It's the morality of the weakness. And then but they don't call it weakness. They end up calling it good. They end up calling it fairness. So it's a reframing of terms, right?
Yeah.
So the slave doesn't demonstrate strength in order to be good and noble. They do it by subversion, right? Okay, so subversion is the tool of the slave.
Yes, passive aggression.
Exactly. So you don't want to transcend the slave with power. You just want to make them slaves as well. This is why I think, like, if I hate to say this, man, but I have to be honest about this. Like, I think the critical race theory is slave morality, and I think feminism is slave morality. I think what black people do in this country with Black Lives Matter and all that shit is slave morality. It is. Okay? Let's just be honest about that. Like, if we had to put it in philosophical terms and we had to kind of, give a kind of taxonomy of it, I would say that a lot of what black people do in this country is predicated upon slave morality. It just is, right? So, but he also,
I think a lot of that has to do with religious indoctrination.
No, but it does. It does.
Think about it. Turn the other cheek. You got the meek. The meek shall inherit the earth. Everything about Christianity is pretty much, obey. Slaves obey your masters. All of these things are basically telling whoever follows it that the good people are the poor and the weak and things like that. That is the entire.
He says, man, look, Nietzsche's going to say the same thing. He's going to say, look, the principles in the Bible, like being humble, giving to the poor, showing pity on people who are less fortunate, that these virtues, right, are going to be universalized such that everyone, needs to follow them, right? So you basically universalizing the positionality of the slave onto all of mankind. So he says that's what Christianity does. That's why he doesn't, he basically is like, okay, well, look, you basically, you fucked up the will to power in Western culture. I mean, this man, Nietzsche predicted this shit. He did, okay?
So let me do something.
But it goes further than that, though.
Okay.
Because it doesn't stick around in Christianity. Because, as you know, Nietzsche said God is dead. Now, the question is, why would he say God is dead? Because even a person who considers themselves to be a Christian, we're not Christians like that. We don't walk around thinking about Christ or thinking we don't carry. Some people do. I mean, I'm not saying that there aren't people like this, but by and large, Western culture is not really it's Christian, but people aren't devout in their beliefs and they don't express this outwardly like people did in the past. Okay, like this is a secular culture, but the Christian value system though is imbued in the culture itself. Is what he's going to end up saying. So like even democracy is to him slave morality.
I think people use in this culture Christianity to their convenience when when there's an agenda to be gained from it. Like I want to apply some of this what we're talking about to the topic, right? That you're discussing today in reference to men and women. Thomas V. So
you went out, so I don't know where you're at. I guess you
yeah,
have to
can
answer
you hear
the
me?
call.
I'm
Yeah, I
right
can
here.
hear you. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes.
Okay, so basically what I was going to say is the way I see it now is in 2020 and for some time now, what's becoming the new slave morality is feminism. And you guys probably discussed this before I got on. I'm late to the party, so you probably already said this shit, but I feel like we're in a space where, if you're going to frame it the way Nietzsche, I don't know how to say his fucking name. Say his name for me.
Nietzsche.
The way Nietzsche, I'm gonna frame it that way. I'm gonna say women desire to be men, or at least they desire to be in men's position. So what they're doing is they're creating a space where anything masculine is inherently evil and anything feminine is inherently good. That's why you see a lot of, celebration of men who have like any type of feminine disposition, and anything feminine, even on women's part is inherently good, even though they are at times expressing masculine energy. Does that make sense? Does that
it
make
does.
sense?
It does, because again, let me just say it again. So a slave is not going to try to exert his will by his strength because he doesn't have it.
Exactly.
So he has to use subversion. Let me try to find a good word, because subversion is like a.
Nah, that's perfect.
It
you right on point.
It is it's turning it on its head. So it's basically okay. So you don't overcome, the master with power, but you overcome the master by pulling him down to your level. You get what I'm saying? So if I had to explain what was going on with feminism, I would say it like this. Okay, so you got women that can't be men, and they look at men as powerful, so they call it patriarchy, right? So so they use all these negative epithets, or use all of these negative descriptions to explain that which is powerful. And they turn it into something nasty and vile instead of something that should be respected and admired. Okay, and then so they take what power is, and they try to distribute it to the entirety of the community, right? But here's the deal: these people are vying for power as well. See, the whole point of slave morality is to actualize your own power, but just in like you said, in a passive aggressive way.
Yeah.
But you're still exerting will to power. You're creating a situation in which you're trying to acquire power, but you're not doing it directly, but you're doing it through machination. You're doing it through, you're doing it subliminally. You're doing it low key,
passive
instead of high key.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying? So,
over.
But I don't think it started with feminism.
No.
This is not something that just started with feminists.
No,
but they're using that playbook. But I've said this before.
Just a current
All of
example.
what we're engaged in is slave morality. All of it. Even like this is why I say asking white people for reparations, that shit is like slave morality to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think we deserve it, but think about it. What would
No,
be better?
I
What would
discussed
be
this earlier.
like? What would be better?
Mhm.
What happened in Haiti? I mean, and I understand, like in the context of the world scheme, that Haiti's not faring too well. But I mean, at the time, what would you think have been a better solution? Them motherfuckers doing what they did or doing what we're doing?
Well,
I'm just asking,
when
and I understand the circumstances are different in Haiti as opposed to what occurred, in
well,
the United States.
I,
I understand that, okay? But you got
I,
to think, in the
I
end,
mhm.
the only solution to this shit, like white folks don't give a fuck about slave morality. They don't. Like Biden doesn't give a fuck about it. That should be made clear. He doesn't. Okay. Um, all these civil rights, they'll use the past and they'll talk about it and they'll use it in the context of how they fought for the rights for black folks and how they signed the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act and the Fair Housing Act and all of these things, right? But at the end of the day, these people are in power, they know they're in power, and they perceive themselves as good for having that power.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, black men, we know we're fucked up in this country, man. We know we're outnumbered, and we know that at the present moment, man, we're thrust into a situation that puts us in between a rock and a hard place. Bottom line, because whatever agency you try to demonstrate, if you don't carry that shit all the way out, you're gonna get your wings plucked. Do you understand what I'm saying? So, like, if you don't stand up strong for real, they're gonna come after you, bro. They're gonna put your ass down. Okay? But the question is, do you want to continue to be a slave, or do or would you prefer to fucking be put down? These white people, man, they will kill each other, man, for their freedom. They have done it before, man. Like they say, give me liberty or give me death. They meant that shit. Now, I mean, they were in a unique position. This shit wouldn't have worked in England. Like the American project, all of what they did, it would never have worked in Europe. It just would not have worked. So they were lucky. They had a humongous landmass that divided them from the rest of Europe. So that's where their strength lied. And then like they took on the tactics and the military strategy of the Native Americans. That's how they beat the fucking English. Right? I can go further and further into this, but I mean, at the end of the day, I think you're right, man. Let me cut the chase with this shit. I do believe you're right. Feminists are on some slave morality shit. They are. And so are a lot of other black people in other arenas, man. We're on some slave morality shit.
Well, you got to remember, feminists are still asking for protection and provision. So it's not as though they're trying to be unto themselves. They're also still. It's like they're saying, fuck the patriarchy while still demanding benefits from same patriarchy. So
Well, that's the difference between white feminism and black feminism, right?
yeah,
And like you also have to understand, like, there's differences between feminists too. Like feminists is not all a one size fits all
yeah,
endeavor.
absolutely.
Okay, so um, and then there's different waves of feminism, and people roughly have different kind of ideals about
Yeah, I was gonna
what
say
the
that too.
aims and the goals are related to those different waves. But like, so you got equity feminists, you got radical feminists, you got lesbian feminists, but I don't think most black women are actually feminists. So here's where we are now, though. Let me just say this historically. This is where we are. We're in a situation in which slave morality has been able to make an impact. But these women aren't really actually appealing to men. They're using men. That's just the facts, bro. Like women are using the shit out of men because men are still caught up into an old way of life. But women are using the government. The government is the patriarchy. But it's not the patriarchy anymore when they control it. Do you get what I'm saying? It becomes the gynocracy. And it ain't just the gynocracy ain't just some shit that black women have either. If if you think about it critically, okay? So the state has become the arbiter for these people to handle what they consider to be the power that men have. Bottom line. And they're using that shit expertly, bro. Like expertly. And men are the main participants and upholders of it because they're thinking regressively. They don't know where we're at. They still think we're in the old days.
Well, they've been raised to think that way.
Man,
You
this
got you
shit.
got to think. You got listen to this. Women are the largest custodians of the children here. So, and then you have a concentrated effort to remove paternal influence from homes. So if when you put those two things together, you're gonna have a male majority that, again, more slave morality. Like, they practice their morality in reference to what they mama taught them. Okay, so when they go out into the world, they're seeking their mother even in their women. So when they do that, these are the guys like me and you and others have to deal with online. And when we talk about anything that affects black men, et cetera, we get these Derek Jackson types and things like that. These are guys who were taught this is the way to do it. And to me, guys who were raised by their dads if you look far back enough, you're going to find some female influence that tells them this is the way, this is the right way. You
Well,
understand what I'm
I saw
saying?
something really alarming, man, about some of the strongest or the largest families in the South. And I'm gonna talk about that, man. Like a lot of these families were headed by women,
Yeah.
and the fathers of the children, these black children, were mulattoes, and their daddies were white. And they made sure that these women were taken care of, man, because they bore their children. And but that's a whole nother conversation, man. Like I'm starting to turn left and right, but I do agree that a lot of black folks, man, espouse and they can talk. I mean, it doesn't matter if they're fucking black nationalists, if they're Pan Africanists, if who. It doesn't matter what orientation they have politically. Most black people in America, man, are the proponents of slave morality, knowingly or unknowingly. I just hate to say that. So, in the end, I think Booker T. Washington was right. I think W.B. Du Bois was wrong. Two left shoes. He was dependent upon an idea of progress and eruditeness. Uh, he had bought into this idea that we could become culturally refined and then kind of integrate, and the talented tenth would bring us to a more, I don't know, a progressive, more civilized culture. But look, at the end of the day, we don't build shit. We don't know shit. I'm gonna tell you what we do know. We know about some WAP.
Yeah.
We know about that shit. We know about some WAP. We know how to get the bag, which ain't really a bag, because black folks ain't got no damn bags.
Well, they get
Okay,
bag and they spin the bag.
they blow the bag. Well, the Migos say they get the bag and tumble it. You get the bag,
But they
you
fumble
get
it.
the bag and fumble it. You get the bag and fumble it. They get the bag and flip it and
Triple and
tumble it.
tumble it.
Yeah, that's what they do. So we done started off talking about Nietzsche, and we gonna end with the Migos, man. I wish I could end this shit with some Migos, but then they'll fucking copyright strike me.
Mm.
But anyway, man, look, we rambling now, so I'm at the 2 hour mark. I'm tired as fuck. I
No
gotta wake
doubt.
up, get ready to go do some work tomorrow. So, but at any rate, man, look, uh, I love y'all, man. And you need to get on the show more often. I need to get on your show too, man.
Yeah, no doubt.
So at any rate, man, look, thank y'all out there, man. This is the place where black men can express themselves freely. Straight up, no chaser. And look, we about to ride out, man. I'll holler at y'all later, man. Peace.
Yeah. I'm a phenomenon, I shine like Orion. I came in a rap gang to smack it up like Heron, transform it like Megatron. Wait, like Yamatron, most rappers are some peons. I'ma starve them like Ramadan, I'm troublesome. You don't really want no troublesome, cause I pop guns like hood tick, do bubble gum. I been dumb, gon' stay that way till kingdom come. When the sun I'm at, unleash a demon, a polygon. I'm heavy, son, got more knowledge than Farrakhan. More gang than Cap, come with that bishop named Don Juan. Stay lit off some Shandon, maybe Bacardi Ram. Stay drink to some Nordstrom, call me that Dapper Don. More violent than Genghis Khan, the members of Taliban. Niggas faker than silicon, get hit like a .com, like soldiers in Lebanon. I'm bringing that red rum. When I get through with you, son, you gon' think I'll see ram. Run! I carry weight like a heavyweight, bake more cakes than patty cake. Watch the fiend salivate. You a lightweight, bantamweight, better contemplate. If you violate, make you levitate to the pearly gates. I fascinate when I conversate from the show me state where these niggas left the hate and hot murder rate or the waste. But this flow is just a taste of God's grace, shining this light in the ugly place. In the prophecy, got more wisdom than Socrates' philosophies. You don't really want no parts of me, can't you see? I'm slicker than Mephistopheles, stronger than Hercules, more dangerous than Damocles. The MCs trying me pretty please. I wait up they white tees, knock them out they wallabies. Now they touch my deliries. But coming up shorter than little C's when I break out the killer bees. I study music like Orcasi, hit chicks look like Ashanti. When I'm breaking them off, they yell at odd poppy. You rappers is sloppy, you can't stop me with that. We can sorry, copy, malarkey. I'm a monster like Frankenstein, rock harder than Palestine. You slimes, dropping dimes, a snake and serpentine. Can't stand to see me glow like Nas with his big shine. All you haters colder than cold sores, need calamine. But my hot shit like red bricks hitting your head. Leave the sour taste up in your mouth like lemon heads, like Simply Red. Wasted some years up in the feds when I touched down. Already red, that gave me head. I got higher vision for higher living. I'm highly driven. I'm acting women like it's some sort of sick religion. Driving an Impala, sitting on it, each 20 inches, and they spinning just like the planets in the solar system.
Black country people, over in Africa, down to America. Black country people, we make all the world go round and around, yes. Black country people, up in Canada, down to Jamaica. Black country people, we make all the world go round and around.